In this video, we'll be completely restoring and refinishing my wheels on my Saab 9.3. I've had these wheels on my 9.3 for, well, pretty much as long as I've owned it. This was the first thing I bought after I bought the car, so they've been on the car for, well, 8 years now. And so over 8 years of brake dust, just wear and tear, these wheels definitely need a bit of work in order to get the car perfect for the Owners Convention in July. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with regards to Saab Owners Convention, click the video in the top corner to learn some more about what it is and where it is and when it is. But these wheels, if you're wondering, because I get questions on it all the time, are Sport Edition P3. Unfortunately, they are no longer available. When I bought these, they were made in 5x110. It sounded like for a while they were still making them in 5x112, which you can run on these cars with wobble bolts. But now it seems like they just don't make or sell them anymore. And I went with them because, well, they look OEM, maybe even you could say OEM plus, but they suit the car perfectly. Enough of me talking about how much I like these wheels. You'll notice a couple things here. First off, they are just absolutely filthy, especially this one here in particular. Now you'll see once we start to get it cleaned up, which is going to be our first step, there are a couple spots on some of the wheels where the finish is starting to come off, and that's the main thing I want to address. The wheels overall are in fantastic shape. Besides that, I do have some tiny little curb rash right here. This is so minuscule though. I think we can get most of it out with just sanding and probably won't need to do any body filler or filler on this. But besides that, there's a couple little scratches here and there, like right there on that center cap area. Our first step is just going to be cleaning the wheels, getting all the brake dust and iron and debris and everything that's on there off. After that, we're going to begin sanding. Now, we're not going to go crazy with sanding, but we do have a few different grits of sandpaper here. Lastly, and I actually saw this from another wheel refinishing video, are these scuff pads. This box has two different kinds of scuff pads, one that's equivalent to 320 grit, one that's equivalent to 800 grit. We have 2 cans of primer, 2 cans of wheel paint, and then 2 cans of clear. And then to top it off, I have some center caps that I haven't test fitted yet because of course center caps are also NLA for these wheels, it seems like. So I bought some that look super close with some new Saab stickers. So hopefully those will fit on and they'll be good as new. Last thing before we get into restoring these wheels is wheel color. I want to discuss that quickly. I put a poll on my Instagram asking you all what color you thought was best. I put a few renderings on there. Obviously silver, I did gray, I had gold, white, and then I think I did black as well. And I asked for everyone's opinion. Silver ended up winning as the most popular choice. So that's kind of what I was pretty certain I wanted to go with. We're gonna stick with this. I think silver with the light color just really pops with the dark paint. Just gonna spray our iron remover on here. Let it kind of soak for a little bit. This is gonna make me cringe, but my tires are just wide enough to where the rim is not touching the concrete. I'm gonna clean the barrels and behind the spokes as well. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of brake dust in there, but we'll be able to get that off with the detailer and a rag. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other 3. With that first layer of main brake dust off, I'm gonna use some degreaser. See if we can't get most of the rest of this off. Check out how good that looks. It pretty much looks brand new in there. Now for the side we all care about. From here, I'd say this looks pretty good, but when you get in close, you can see kind of what I'm talking about with the finish starting to fade off. Wheels have all been cleaned and it is time to begin sanding. So on areas where I have curb rash, which is really only this small spot right here, I'm going to start off with like a 120 grit, maybe a 240 grit sandpaper, just to sand this down and begin smoothing it out. Then on the rest of the wheel, I will use some 320 grit in the form of this like scrubbing pad, which is really helpful for stuff like this because it's going to help me get in all these grooves a whole lot easier than traditional sandpaper will. You can see already we've gotten about half of that curb rash out just with that few seconds of sanding. Do see a couple of other little chunks and low spots here. So unfortunately, there are a couple little deep gouges in here from the curb rash. The more I go in here, the more obviously metal I take away. So I don't want to go much deeper without it possibly creating a visible dip in the wheel. So I think I'll go at it just a little bit more. But we're probably just going to leave these couple little gouges here. I'm not going for Concours quality, but to do this right, we would need to get a little bit of filler to fill in these tiny little spots. But this is really all the curb rash that is on any of these wheels. So that's why I didn't really feel like it was necessary to spend the money on those products to do that. Now with our 320 pad, I just want to go around the entire wheel and go over everything just to kind of rough up the surface a little bit to help our primer stick better, as well as get off any last little pieces of debris or anything that might have gotten left on there from the deep clean we did. Scuffing with the 320 has been completed, as well as just a quick run over with the 800 just to be safe. I went over with the 800 very lightly. Next, I'll go ahead and clean the wheels a final time and then begin masking so we can prime it. Cleaning and masking is complete. I didn't film it because it's pretty boring, but essentially what I did is I went around, tucked masking tape deep down in there, and then used trash bags to cover, you know, the actual sides of the tires just to be safe. Put some cardboard underneath to protect the garage floor. Some people use index cards and they tuck them in around here when they do, you know, wheel refinishes. I don't really like that because I know I definitely would still get overspray on the tires, especially like around this kind of area where the note cards wouldn't cover. So that's why I went with this. I think it's gonna work perfectly. But just a final look at these. I'm pretty happy with how the prep work went. This is where things started to go bad. The primer I chose for this was SEM High Build Primer, which helped fill in some of the little imperfections in the wheels. I did 2 to 3 medium coats as directed per the can. I noticed the finish was very dusty and the primer dust was getting everywhere, like it was all over the garage, all over the car, everything. I ended up proceeding with the actual paint a day later, and after applying the necessary coats of the actual silver paint, I got the following finish. The paint was extremely gritty, dusty, and would just not adhere to the wheels. No matter what I did, I could tell the paint was just not going to stick, and the finish would not be smooth, even with sanding after the paint cured. So, I decided to buy some paint stripper and completely start from scratch. What you're seeing here was an intensive 2-day process, letting the paint stripper sit on there, power washing, paint stripper, power washing, until all of the paint was gone. I actually ended up accidentally removing some wheel weights with this as well, so I had to go to Discount Tire to get the wheels rebalanced. I removed all the brand new paint and primer and subsequently repeated the same sanding process, but then at last, we were almost ready to paint for a second time. Paint has been stripped, sanding is complete. This was an incredibly time-consuming process for all 4 wheels, and we are finally ready to do a final clean of the surface before we paint. And so what we're going to use for that is some isopropyl alcohol. Hopefully get any, you know, little sanding dust or debris that might still be on the wheels off, so that way we have a good, clean, smooth surface for the paint to adhere to. I just realized I forgot to mask off the valve stem caps. That was almost really bad. Let's do that real quick. Disaster avoided. It's been 24 hours, the wheels are now completely dry, and we are just about ready to apply our clear coat. However, there is one slight issue. You can see the wheels kind of have almost like a powder layer on them. So if I take my finger, there's paint that is coming off. Now, thankfully, I don't think this is too big of an issue because if I just kind of gently wipe with a paper towel on here, you can see it not only takes away all that smoothness, but now if I rub my finger on here, I'm not getting any paint. So maybe this is just how the spray paint is. This has happened both the first time and the second time I tried to do this, but I'm just gonna kind of wipe off the wheels essentially to get this like little layer of dust off, and then we'll be ready for our clear coat. After a good dusting with a paper towel and a couple of passes with a vacuum, these are looking pretty good. We are finally ready to apply our clear coat, the final step in this process. This actually has a hardener in it, which is what this red cap is for. You install that on the bottom, press it in, it releases the hardener, you shake it up, and then you spray it. So once you kind of activate the can, it's only good for a few hours. All right, we're done shaking up the can for 2 minutes. Now let's pop our cap off. And we're just supposed to stick this on here, just like that. I need to shake it up for another 2 minutes. And last and most importantly, make sure you wear a mask when using this stuff, or a respirator. I've got the garage door open. As soon as I'm done spraying, I'm gonna turn the fan on to help get these fumes out, but I'm gonna wear the mask as well. It's been 24 hours, clear coat is dried, so let's pull off all of our masking stuff. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but over the years I've actually lost 2 of the 4 center caps for these wheels. So I was able to source 4 new ones on Amazon, as well as 4 new Saab stickers, because you can see these ones have kind of faded over time. They're just yellow and gross. Because these are aftermarket wheels, they do not take OEM Saab center caps. These center caps are much larger. These stickers are already formed to the shape of a center cap, which is great. And they also have some adhesive on the back. Now, I never had any issues with these falling off, meaning the sticker falling off of the center cap that's underneath it. But just to be safe, I'm going to add a little super glue. Ignoring the tires being dirty, some of this is just adhesive from the masking tape that needs to come off. You know, there's no overspray of paint or anything, but these turned out really good. I think the center caps are a fantastic finishing touch, and man, I am so happy. These look as good as they did the day I bought them 8 years ago. While all 4 wheels are off the car, I'm going to take advantage of that and do a tire rotation. This is a reminder to you as well, if you haven't done tire rotation in the last year, I usually do it like every other oil change to go ahead and get that done. So I have a full video on how to do a tire rotation. It's pretty simple, but in case you haven't done one before, click up in the top corner. I just have to shine a light on these. I can't wait to get these wheels out in the sun, but look at that silver flake that this paint has. It's just absolutely beautiful how this turned out. Now, this job is by no means 100% perfect. For one, I probably should have painted the barrels. You can see the paint stripper kind of pulled off some of the finish on the barrels in certain areas. When the car's on the ground, I don't think this is going to be really visible, but that's really the biggest issue with this job. I think all things considered, this turned out pretty well. If I make a mess up on the channel, I want to tell you all about it so that way you can hopefully avoid doing the same thing. So lesson learned with that primer, and I guess just that prep method wasn't the best. Definitely make sure you clean it with alcohol, and well, I think just avoiding that high fill primer, for whatever reason, for my particular wheels, just yielded a better result. That's all for today though. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers. See you on the next one.
Take it easy.